Raymond Burr's life was a mix of extraordinary fame and profound sorrow. According to him, his son tragically passed away from leukemia at just 10 years old, followed shortly by his wife's death from cancer. But then again, that's if you believe his version of events. Raymond Burr, most famous for his role as the star of TV's Perry Mason, was known for being a habitual liar, making it hard to separate fact from fiction. What is clear, however, is that these fabrications were likely meant to conceal a secret that could have ended his career. So, what could that secret have been? Share your thoughts in the comments. Let's delve into the complicated and often deceptive life of Raymond Burr, a man whose lies knew no bounds. We do know a few solid facts. He was born as William Raymond Stacey Burr on May 21, 1917 in New Westminster, BC, Canada. There's no reason to question the truth of his early childhood, as it was relatively uneventful. His father worked as a hardware salesman, and his mother was a piano teacher. Though the more I think about it, the more it starts to sound almost too ordinary, like something out of a storybook. But while his early years might have been unremarkable, Raymond Burr's life soon took a turn for the unbelievable. Raymond Burr claimed that at just 12 years old, he left school and began searching for work. Given that the Great Depression had just begun, it's not hard to believe that life was challenging for a single mother raising 3 children, so his story might hold some truth. Burr also stated that he headed to New Mexico and secured a job as a ranch hand at that young age. Again, this could be plausible since Burr later admitted that he was unusually large for his age, leading people at the ranch to mistake him for an adult. In 1937, Burr's path took a significant turn when he joined the Pasadena Playhouse, which soon opened doors to Broadway and radio opportunities. He had always been a large person, born weighing 12 pounds and growing into an even larger adult. His size made him self-conscious, so he gravitated towards radio roles where physical appearance wasn't a factor. His rich, deep voice allowed him to play romantic leads, roles he couldn't land on stage due to his physique. Burr might have continued enjoying a stable career in radio, but fate had a more transformative opportunity in store for him. By the mid-1940s, Hollywood was entering its film noir era, and while there was no shortage of handsome leading men, there was a demand for actors who could portray big, intimidating thugs. Raymond Burr discovered that his large physique made him a perfect fit for these roles, quite literally. His size, which he had once viewed as a hindrance, became the very thing that propelled him to success in Hollywood. However, this success came at a personal cost. Despite the opportunities, Burr harbored deep bitterness about his typecasting, later referring to himself as the fat heavy of film noir. Although he was only in his 20s, he was often cast as characters much older than himself, sometimes even as the father of an actor who was actually younger. To Burr, it was clear that his weight was the reason he was perpetually cast as the villain, the one who never got the girl. This typecasting put him in a frustrating cycle, one that only seemed to deepen over time. It's true that Burr's characters never got to walk off into the sunset with a glamorous starlet, but in one particular film, he didn't get the girl either. He got the gorilla. In 1954, Raymond Burr starred alongside Academy Award-winning actress Anne Bancroft in Gorilla at Large. Though TV Guide described the 3D movie as unintentionally hilarious, it marked a significant shift for Burr. After getting a taste of being a lead actor, Burr quickly transitioned from Gorilla to Godzilla. That same year, a groundbreaking film in Japan featuring a giant lizard named Godzilla was gaining immense popularity. Seeing potential for success in the U.S., film distributor Edmund Goldman devised a plan to Americanize the film. At the time, American audiences weren't particularly interested in foreign films, so Goldman made 2 key changes. He renamed the film Godzilla, King of the Monsters, and decided to insert an American actor into the already completed movie. It's probably no surprise who he chose: Raymond Burr. Inserting Burr into a finished film was no easy task, especially on a tight deadline. The team decided to reshoot only the scenes involving Burr, and they opted to do it in the United States. They meticulously rebuilt the original sets and brought in Asian American actors to double for those already in the film. The pressure on Burr was immense, but he couldn't resist embellishing the story. According to Burr, his contract for Godzilla, King of the Monsters, was just for a single day of work. However, the frugal producers took this quite literally, interpreting one day as 24 straight hours. This, Burr claimed, was why the filming was so intense. Burr claimed that he completed the entire shoot in a grueling 24-hour stretch, which makes for a compelling story. Except it wasn't true. In fact, Burr later contradicted himself by saying that he worked on Godzilla, King of the Monsters, for 6 days, not just one. His involvement in a creature feature like Godzilla seemed odd to many, especially since Burr had already built a solid reputation playing tough characters in film noir. To some, his participation in the project seemed like a simple cash grab. But the reality was quite different. Burr genuinely enjoyed making the film and took pride in his work. Personally, I have a soft spot for those classic Godzilla movies. If you're a fan too, let me know. It seemed that Hollywood might have sensed Burr was beginning to find his footing because his life was on the brink of a major transformation. Before his iconic role in Godzilla, Burr had already played a notable supporting role as a district attorney in A Place in the Sun, where he acted alongside Hollywood heartthrobs Montgomery Clift and Elizabeth Taylor. 5 years later, Burr's strong courtroom performance caught the attention of a producer who was working on adapting a series of novels by early Stanley Gardner, featuring a lawyer named Perry Mason. Burr was invited to audition, not for the lead role, but for a supporting character. However, he was in for an unexpected twist. Although the role was a supporting one on a television show, which some might have considered a step down for him, Burr attended the audition. The producer of Perry Mason, Gail Patrick Jackson, watched Burr's audition and had a revelation. Burr wasn't suited for the district attorney role. He was, in fact, ideal for Perry Mason himself. However, there was one catch. Before handing Burr the lead role, Jackson made a significant request. She wanted him to lose weight. Burr had struggled with his weight throughout his life, often attributing it to the roles he was typecast in. But now, with the chance to secure a lead role, Burr wasn't about to let anything stand in his way. He embarked on a rigorous crash diet and returned as a slimmer version of himself, ready for one final test. When the author of the Perry Mason novels saw Burr's test clip, he immediately stood up and declared, "That's Perry Mason." With that endorsement, Burr secured the role that would change his life forever. The network had high expectations for Perry Mason, but no one could have predicted just how massive the show would become. Running from 1957 to 1966, the series captivated an audience of 30 million viewers every Saturday night. Burr, who had previously been overlooked in supporting film roles, suddenly found himself receiving 3,000 letters from fans each week. America had fallen in love with Raymond Burr, and he must have felt on top of the world. Naturally, with fame came curiosity, and fans were eager to learn more about the man behind the character. The public was especially interested in Burr's love life, and he was surprisingly open about it. Burr told reporters that about a decade before taking on the role of Perry Mason, he had married an actress named Isabella Ward. He shared that the couple had lived briefly in the basement of his grandparents' house in Hollywood. For reasons that remain unclear, Burr's marriage to Isabella Ward ended abruptly just a few months after the wedding. Ward packed her belongings and returned to her home in Delaware. To the best of our knowledge, this part of Burr's story is true. However, Burr didn't stop there. He felt the need to invent a second wife, Annette Sutherland, who he claimed tragically died in a plane crash. To make the story more convincing, Burr added specific details, even asserting that it was the same crash that killed the famous actor Leslie Howard. But this was where Burr made his first major blunder. There was no Annette Sutherland on that flight, and it didn't take long for people to uncover the truth. Burr didn't just fabricate a wife. He also invented a son. He claimed that he and Sutherland had a child together. Naturally, fans and reporters became curious and wanted to see this child. Faced with the pressure, Burr came up with a deeply unsettling explanation. He told people that his son had died of leukemia at just 10 years old. Raymond Burr, the star of Perry Mason, wasn't just known for his acting skills. He was also known for the tragic stories he shared, claiming to be a grieving widower with a deceased son. However, these stories were entirely fabricated. As Burr continued to share these tales, reporters became increasingly curious. But just when they began to lose interest in uncovering more about the man behind Perry Mason, Burr did something unexpected. He invented another wife, Laura Andrina Morgan, and predictably, he claimed she too had passed away from cancer, once again casting himself as a sorrowful widower. It became clear that Burr had a habit of fabricating stories. Yet the truth behind these lies was far more dangerous for him. During his time on Perry Mason, Burr was enduring a demanding work schedule. On one rare occasion when he had some time to rest, there was a knock on his dressing room door. The visitor was Robert Benavides, a young and attractive struggling actor who had come to deliver a script. Burr, after a long look at Benavides, decided to hire him as his assistant. It wasn't long before their close relationship became apparent to those on the set of Perry Mason. If we're seeking a reason behind Burr's web of lies, it's not hard to find. His relationship with Benavides revealed a truth Burr desperately wanted to hide. He was gay. The fabricated stories about wives and a son were a not-so-subtle attempt to divert attention from prying reporters. Now that Burr had found someone he cared about, you might think he would finally reveal the truth. But if you believe that, you clearly don't understand Hollywood. Burr provided a detailed explanation, insisting that his demanding schedule on Perry Mason left him no time for a wife. This reasoning, however, didn't account for how other TV stars managed to maintain romantic relationships, sometimes even juggling more than one. Burr seemed willing to say anything to justify his single status, but these fabrications would eventually catch up with him. After his first brief marriage, Burr never remarried. While his excuse of having no time for a relationship held some validity during Perry Mason, what about when the show ended? Would he then have time to find a partner? When Perry Mason concluded in 1966, Burr didn't pursue marriage. Instead, he did the opposite. He launched into a new series. Ironside began just a year after Perry Mason ended and continued for 9 more years. Once again, Burr had a convenient reason for remaining single, but no excuse could last indefinitely. As a respected actor in both film and television, Burr unexpectedly received an unusual offer to star in a sequel to Godzilla, King of the Monsters. Nearly 3 decades had passed since the original Godzilla, and Burr had significantly evolved in his career. To everyone's surprise, he accepted the role in Godzilla 1985. Once again, some accused him of selling out for money, but that wasn't the case. Burr reprised his role from the original Godzilla, but there was a catch. His character was named Steve Martin, a name now famously associated with another celebrity. To avoid confusion, they referred to Burr's character simply as Steve or Mr. Martin. Despite this, Burr thoroughly enjoyed his return to the monster movie genre, further endearing himself to Godzilla fans. Even after Ironside concluded, Burr remained active in television, which conveniently supported his narrative of not having time to find a wife. Most of these series were short-lived. It wasn't until 1985 that Burr experienced renewed success, and it came by revisiting his roots. He began starring in Perry Mason TV movies, which became incredibly popular. Once again, the role of Perry Mason kept Burr occupied and helped deflect the persistent rumors about why a man of his age remained unmarried. In reality, though, Burr wasn't single at all. Remember the young man who delivered scripts to Burr back in the 1960s? His name was Robert Benavides. From the later years of Perry Mason, through the entirety of Ironside, and across every other project Burr took on, he was in a committed relationship with Benavides. Friends and colleagues knew Benavides as Burr's close companion, and the two remained together for the rest of Burr's life. But how did they manage to keep their relationship a secret for so long? Burr and Benavides lived on a large estate in Sonoma County, California throughout that time. When questions arose, Burr would simply introduce Benavides as his business partner and friend, both of which were true. To further deflect any speculation about their romantic involvement, they even started a business together, opening a winery in the 1980s. But could they ever make their relationship public? If you think so, then you still don't understand Hollywood, where being openly gay and maintaining a career have long been at odds. Even today, coming out as gay can have significant career repercussions. Imagine what it was like in the 1960s and 70s. Back then, the term career suicide was often used to describe what happened to actors who revealed their sexuality. Burr, eager to continue his successful career as a TV star, felt he had no choice but to conceal his true self and his relationship with Benavides. Tragically, Burr never had the opportunity to publicly acknowledge Benavides as his partner. In 1993, while filming yet another Perry Mason movie, Burr became ill. His doctors informed the media that he was suffering from renal cell carcinoma that had metastasized to his liver. The cancer was inoperable, leaving Burr with little time. Despite the grim prognosis, Burr made the most of his remaining days, spending time with friends and even hosting a few farewell gatherings. After saying his final goodbyes to those he cared about, Raymond Burr passed away on September 12, 1993. For anyone who doubted the depth of Burr's relationship with Benavides, his last will and testament made it clear. Burr left everything to Benavides, completely excluding his biological family from the will, a fortune estimated at over $30 million. Some members of Burr's family attempted to challenge the will, but they were unsuccessful. Burr's loyalty and love for Benavides were unwavering. Throughout his life, Burr received numerous awards and was frequently featured on best lists in various publications. His role in Perry Mason earned him 2 Emmys, and he garnered 6 additional nominations for his work on Ironside. In 1960, Raymond Burr was honored with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and in 2009, he received a star on Canada's Walk of Fame, along with being featured on a Canadian stamp in 2008. TV Guide named him their favorite male performer in 1960, and in 1996, they included him on their list of the 50 greatest TV stars of all time. And remember, if you've enjoyed this story or others like it, don't forget to show your support by subscribing and hitting the like button. Stay tuned for more informative and exciting stories just like this one.